The wind swept softly across Arlington National Cemetery, carrying with it the faint whisper of fallen heroes. Rows upon rows of white marble stones glistened under the late afternoon sun. At the center stood the tomb of the unknown soldier, silent, eternal, guarded by one man who never flinched. Sergeant J, 30 years old, stood at attention. His movements were measured, flawless, each step rehearsed thousands of times. The rifle rested against his shoulder, his gloves spotless. He was not just guarding stone, he was guarding history. From a distance, a black SUV rolled up. Out stepped an FBI agent, Agent R, a man in his 40s with sharp eyes, a trimmed beard, and the kind of confidence that came from authority. His polished shoes clicked on the pavement as he approached. Agent R, Federal Bureau of Investigation, he announced, flashing his badge. We've got a situation. Step aside. The guard didn't move. His gaze remained fixed ahead, unwavering. The silence itself felt like defiance. I said, step aside. R's tone sharpened. Still, nothing, the agent frowned. Listen, soldier, I'm not here to play games. I'm ordering you. His hand moved to his sidearm. In one smooth motion, he drew the pistol and aimed it directly at the tomb guard's chest. Tourists gasped. A woman screamed. A child started to cry. But the guard, he didn't blink. Lower your weapon, the guard said quietly, his voice calm, controlled, almost detached. You are standing on sacred ground. Sacred or not, R spat. I have orders, but before he could finish, movement flickered at the edge of the plaza. From the shadows of the marble columns, figures emerged. 5 men in tactical gear, silent as ghosts. Navy SEALs. Their boots hit the ground in perfect sync, rifles raised. Sights trained on the agent. The world froze. R's finger hovered near the trigger. A bead of sweat rolled down his temple. Sir, one SEAL called out through his radio mic. Target in sight. Awaiting command. The guard still hadn't moved an inch. You have 30 seconds to lower that weapon, he said evenly. R's pulse pounded. 30 seconds. That was all it took. The SEALs closed in, forming a semicircle, cutting off every exit. He saw the glint of mirrored sunglasses, the hard lines of disciplined faces. They weren't bluffing. The air felt heavier. The silence screamed louder than any shout. Finally, R exhaled shakily, lowering the gun to his side. Fine, he muttered. Have it your way. The SEAL closest to him stepped forward, relieving him of his weapon with clinical precision. The situation dissolved as quickly as it began. The guard resumed his silent march, one precise step, then another, as if nothing had happened. And in that moment, everyone watching understood. This was not just ceremony. This was devotion carved into human form, a line that no one, not even an FBI agent, had the right to cross. The echo of boots faded into the marble corridors of the secure compound below Arlington. Agent R sat handcuffed at a steel table, the dim fluorescent light washing his face pale. Across from him, Commander Lewis, a Navy SEAL in his late 30s, built like stone, leaned forward with folded arms. You realize what you did up there? Lewis asked, his tone low, controlled. You pointed a gun at one of our tomb guards. On sacred ground. R stared back, eyes sharp, jaw set. I had orders? Lewis repeated. From whom? There was silence. The hum of the air vent filled the gap. I can't tell you, R finally said. It's classified. Lewis smirked. Not anymore. He tossed a folder across the table. Inside were photos from security cameras, reports, timestamps. Every detail of the 30-second standoff was already analyzed. The SEAL commander stood up, pacing slowly. You've served in law enforcement for 20 years. You know protocol. You don't draw a weapon unless you intend to use it. R looked away, breathing shallow. His fingers twitched against the cuffs. You think I wanted to? Lewis's voice hardened. You tell me. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then R broke, his voice cracking just slightly. There was a threat. A credible one. I wasn't there to disrespect your ceremony. Lewis frowned. What kind of threat? R hesitated. An infiltration, someone impersonating a tomb guard. Intelligence suggested a breach during the afternoon rotation. The commander's eyes narrowed. And your response was to aim a gun at a soldier standing his post? I didn't know who was real. R snapped. I had 10 seconds to decide. Do you understand what kind of pressure that is? Lewis said nothing. Instead, he turned toward the mirrored wall. Bring him in. The door opened, and Sergeant J, the tomb guard himself, stepped inside. The air grew heavy again. His uniform was immaculate. Not a wrinkle out of place. R met his gaze and immediately looked away. There was no anger in the guard's eyes, only something colder, unshakable duty. Lewis spoke quietly. Sergeant, this man claims he suspected an infiltration. Did you notice anything unusual during your shift? The guard's response was measured, formal. No, sir. The rotation proceeded exactly as trained. No deviations. R slammed his hands on the table, cuffs clattering. There was something. The comms frequency was jammed, encrypted chatter on the same channel. You think I imagined that? The SEALs outside the glass tensed, exchanging glances. Lewis leaned closer. You're saying someone hacked the security comms? R nodded, desperate now. Check it. 30 minutes before I arrived. Someone piggybacked on the Arlington signal. They were testing response times. For the first time, Lewis didn't look certain. He turned to one of his men, who immediately left the room. Minutes later, the door opened again. The SEAL whispered something into the commander's ear. Lewis's expression changed. He looked back at R. You might be right, he said quietly. R exhaled, relief flooding his face. Finally, Lewis didn't smile. But that doesn't excuse what you did. You broke sacred protocol. You could have started a firefight in front of civilians. R nodded slowly. I know. The tomb guard stepped forward, his boots clicking against the floor. Permission to speak freely, sir. Lewis nodded. The guard faced R squarely. You acted out of fear. But fear cannot coexist with honor. If you wish to make amends, find whoever tried to defile this ground and bring them to me. The room fell silent again. The flickering light hummed above them. For the first time, R lowered his head. Understood. Outside, Arlington lay bathed in the fading sunset, tranquil, unaware that beneath its stillness, something dark was moving. Night had fallen over Arlington. The marble tombs glowed faintly under the moonlight, and the rhythmic steps of the evening guard echoed in the silence. Deep beneath the sacred grounds, a team of Navy SEALs worked inside the restricted command center, screens glowing blue. Radio chatter muted to whispers. Commander Lewis stood over a table littered with comms data and frequency logs. The air smelled faintly of metal and coffee. Agent R stood across from him, his jacket off, sleeves rolled up. Tension still written all over his face. 30 minutes before you arrived, Lewis said, scanning a monitor. We pulled every byte of signal data from the Arlington Tower. Nothing. No piggyback frequency. No encrypted traffic. Nothing at all. R frowned. That's impossible. I heard it. 117.6 megahertz. Someone was transmitting a scrambled code. Lewis turned the monitor toward him. 117.6 megahertz doesn't exist in this sector. The tower's locked between 110 and 115. Whoever sent that transmission wasn't inside the network. They faked it. RS eyes widened. You mean a ghost frequency? Lewis nodded. And that's the part that worries me. From a side console, A SEAL tech called out. "Sir, I traced residual interference in the nearby spectrum. It bounced from a mobile relay about 2 miles north, near Memorial Bridge." Lewis looked up sharply. "That's civilian ground." "Not anymore," R said grimly. Within minutes, 3 armored Humvees rolled out under the cover of darkness. The Potomac glimmered beneath them as they crossed Memorial Bridge. Headlights dimmed, engines low. The team halted beside an abandoned construction trailer. The door hung open, papers scattered by the wind. Lewis gave a signal. 2 SEALs flanked the entrance while another swept the perimeter with infrared. Inside, dust floated through the beam of a single flashlight. A small generator hummed weakly. R crouched beside a black case on the floor, inside. A portable transmitter, custom-built. Still warm to the touch. "This is military grade," R whispered. "Someone with clearance made this." Lewis examined the device, tracing his gloved fingers along the serial plate. No numbers. Scratched off. Whoever used this didn't want to be found. A faint click echoed behind them. Both men turned. The rear door creaked slightly, moving in the wind. Lewis gestured silently, and a SEAL slipped around the corner. Seconds later, a low thud, then silence. The SEL's voice came through the comm. "Clear. Found a trail. Fresh boot prints heading toward the river." The team followed. The night air was cold, and mist rolled across the water like smoke. The prints led to the edge of the bank and stopped. "No body, no boat, no trace. Whoever it was," Lewis muttered. "They knew we were coming." R knelt, running his fingers along the damp mud. He pulled up a small metal chip, no bigger than a coin. Its surface shimmered faintly in the light. "What is it?" Lewis asked. R turned it over. A memory fragment, encrypted. Whoever planted this wasn't sending random noise. They were testing our reaction time, measuring us. Lewis's voice lowered. "To what end?" Before R could answer, one of the SEALs called out. "Sir, you'll want to see this." The soldier pointed at the riverbank. On a rock near the edge was something etched crudely into the stone. A single insignia. A triangle enclosing an eagle, wings spread. R froze. "That's not possible." Lewis narrowed his eyes. "You recognize it?" R nodded slowly. "It's the mark of Division 9. They were disbanded 10 years ago." The commander stared at him, realization dawning. "Then we're not dealing with an infiltration." R finished the thought for him. "We're dealing with a resurrection." Thunder rumbled in the distance. The wind picked up, scattering leaves across the ground. The team stood in silence, staring at the faint mark that shouldn't have existed. Beneath the moonlight, the sacred calm of Arlington seemed to tremble, as if something buried long ago was waking up again. The storm rolled in over Washington, lightning flashing above the distant skyline. Inside the SEAL Operations Center beneath Arlington, tension hung like the thick scent of ozone. Monitors displayed encrypted schematics of the transmitter they had recovered. Every screen glowed with lines of green code, shifting. Rearranging, a live Agent R stood beside Commander Lewis, both staring as the tech team worked in silence. "It's not just a transmitter," said Lieutenant Vega, the lead technician. "It's a beacon." It sent a burst signal, not to any tower, but to a satellite link. "Encrypted, double-layered." R frowned. "Can you trace it?" Vega hesitated. "Not without authorization from Space Command." "But," she hesitated, "the encryption signature, it matches old Division 9 protocols." The words hung in the air. Lewis turned sharply. That unit was shut down a decade ago. Everything about it was wiped. R's voice dropped. "Not everything." Lewis narrowed his eyes. "You're saying you knew about them?" R nodded slowly. "I worked parallel to Division 9 for 3 years before the program was dissolved. Officially, they were cyber espionage specialists, counterintelligence, Infiltration, deep black operations. But unofficially, untraceable assassinations. False flag missions. Lewis finished grimly, are knotted again. Their final directive was codenamed Phoenix Protocol. If their existence was ever compromised, they were to vanish, erase all evidence, and rebuild in silence. Vika looked up from her console. "Sir, if this beacon just reactivated that protocol." Lewis clenched his jaw. Then they're back. A sharp alarm cut through the room. The lights flickered red. One of the SEALs shouted, "We've got movement topside. Unauthorized access point at the memorial perimeter." The team moved instantly. Rifles locked, comms activated. Within 90 seconds, they were on the surface, the storm lashing down around them. Rain hammered against the marble plaza. The tomb of the unknown soldier stood silent in the distance, illuminated by flashes of lightning. Lewis led the advance. Eyes open. No civilians should be here. A shape moved between the columns, a figure cloaked in black, head bowed against the rain. "Identify yourself." Lewis shouted. No response. The SEALs fanned out, approaching from both flanks. R stepped closer, his pistol drawn, water dripping from his sleeve. "Hands where I can see them." The figure raised their head slowly. Under the hood, a mask, matte black, no insignia, but the faint outline of a triangle with an eagle carved into the surface. Division 9. R whispered. The figure moved faster than thought, a blur of motion. Flashbang. The explosion of white light and sound tore through the plaza. The world went deaf and blind. When vision cleared, the figure was gone, but something new lay where they stood. A single sealed envelope, soaked by the rain. Lewis grabbed it. Inside, a photo. The tomb guard, standing at attention, on the back. Written in precise ink, "He remembers what we built." The storm intensified. Thunder echoed across the sacred ground. R stared at the words, unease twisting in his chest. "They're not just back," he murmured. "They're already inside." Lewis turned to the guard in the distance, still motionless. Standing in the rain, rifle gleaming under the stormlight, for the first time. Doubt flickered in the commander's eyes. What if the soldier they had sworn to protect was no longer the same man at all? Chapter 5. The Guard Who Wasn't. Next morning, the rain had stopped, but the air felt heavier, charged with something unseen. The tomb of the unknown soldier gleamed beneath the weak sunrise, its marble surface reflecting the sky bruised by night. Commander Lewis and Agent R stood behind the observation barrier, watching the guard march with perfect precision. 21 steps. Pause, face left, pause, turn, 21 steps again. Every motion immaculate. Every movement rehearsed into eternity. "Looks normal to me," muttered Lewis, arms crossed. R didn't answer. His eyes tracked every motion, every subtle twitch in the guard's face. "Watch the timing," he said. "He's off by half a second. And look at his grip. The rifle's balance point is shifted." Lewis frowned. "You think Division 9 replaced him?" R shook his head slowly. "No, worse. I think they reprogrammed him." Lewis gave a bitter laugh. "He's a soldier, not an android." R turned toward him. "You don't understand Division 9. They didn't build machines, they rebuilt people. Hypnosis, chemical conditioning, trauma reinforcement. They could rewrite a man's loyalty at the neurological level." The commander's face hardened. "Then how do we find out if he's one of them?" R exhaled, lowering his voice. "We don't test him here. Too public. We'll set up a silent intercept when he changes shift tonight." Lewis nodded. "And if he's been compromised? Then we treat him like any other threat." That night, the memorial was silent again. Floodlights washed the marble in cold white. The air smelled of wet stone and pine. At exactly 2,300 hours, the relief guard arrived, but the shift change never happened. The station guard stood motionless, eyes unblinking, not reacting to the approach of his replacement. "Something's wrong," whispered Lewis through comms. "Hold position," R ordered. "Let's see what he does." The relief guard spoke softly. "Soldier, you are relieved." No movement. Then the guard turned, too fast, too mechanical, and fixed his gaze directly on the relief soldier. His eyes were blank, pupils dilated beyond recognition. R felt a chill creep up his spine. That's not standard reaction time. Engage non-lethal containment. Before the SEALs could move, the guard swung his rifle in a single smooth arc, disarming the relief soldier in one motion. The man dropped, stunned. "Move!" shouted Lewis. The SEALs stormed forward, surrounding him in seconds. But the guard didn't resist. Instead, he spoke, voice hollow, distant. "They remember," he said. "We all remember." R froze. "What did you just say?" The guard turned slowly toward him. "You buried them in this ground, Agent." But they woke up. A single tear rolled down the guard's face, mixing with the rain. Then he collapsed, rushed inside the operation center. Medical techs swarmed around the soldier. His pulse fluttered erratically, eyes flicking beneath his eyelids like he was trapped in a nightmare. "Sedate him," Vega ordered. R leaned close, voice low. "Who did this to you?" The soldier's lips trembled. "Not who. What?" Then his body convulsed, and a faint clicking sound echoed, a device implanted beneath his collarbone. The tech screamed, "Get back!" The explosion was small but surgical, a pulse of light, and sound that vaporized the body's upper torso without damaging the surroundings. Smoke curled from the table. Everyone stared in silence. Lewis's voice was low, grim. "Self-destruct protocol. Bio fail-safe." R clenched his fists. Division 9 erased their trail again. Vega looked pale. "Sir, you should see this." She held up a fragment of metal extracted from the blast. On it was engraved the same symbol, a triangle with an eagle. Beneath it, one word burned into the steel: revival. R looked at Lewis, eyes dark. "They're not just rebuilding the program," he said. "They're resurrecting it." Chapter 6. Operation Revival. The Pentagon's underground briefing room was cold and silent. The fluorescent lights hummed above a circular table scattered with satellite images and encrypted documents. Agent R leaned forward, staring at a high-resolution photo projected on the wall, deep in the Arizona desert. Beneath a fake wind farm, a pattern of heat signatures formed a perfect triangle. Lewis crossed his arms. "That's not a weather station. Too much energy output." R nodded. "Division 9's Desert Ghost. Revival Base." Across the table, Dr. Vega scrolled through her tablet. "They went dark 20 years ago after the Geneva breach. But these coordinates. This power grid wasn't built by the government. It's off-book." Lewis smirked. "Off-book usually means off-limits." R turned to him. "Not anymore. We have authorization from Strategic Command. Operation Revival starts tonight." By dusk, a black Chinook thundered over the desert. Sand blasted against its sides, the last light of day cutting orange lines across the endless dunes. Inside, the SEALs checked their gear in silence: night vision, suppressed rifles, EMP grenades. R sat opposite Lewis, strapping his holster. "We go in quiet. No alarms, no casualties if possible. We're not sure what's inside." Lewis gave a dry chuckle. "If it's Division 9, I'm guessing it's not a Sunday picnic." The helicopter dropped altitude. The pilot's voice came through comms. "Approaching target zone. Wind turbines ahead." From above, the field looked normal, rows of turbines spinning lazily in the desert wind. But as the Chinook hovered lower, Vega's scanner beeped. "Subsurface metal density confirmed. It's hollow. There's a facility underneath. Deploy." The seals fast-roped into the sand. The wind howled around them, tearing at their uniforms. R crouched, scanning the turbines. "Lewis, check number 12. Lewis jogged toward a tall turbine and kicked at the sand near its base. The ground rang metallic. He brushed it away, revealing a steel hatch the size of a door, marked with the faded eagle and triangle insignia. R exhaled. Bingo. Inside, the air was cold and sterile. The corridors were lit by soft blue light and lined with thick glass. Inside each glass chamber floated shapes, human silhouettes suspended in liquid, wires running into their skulls and chests. One seal whispered, "Christ." "They're cloning?" Vika shook her head. "Not cloning. Neurological replication. They're copying consciousness, trying to rebuild soldiers who can't die." R stared at one of the tanks, a young man's face, peaceful, expressionless. "They're bringing back the dead." Lewis gritted his teeth. "Then we end it here." They reached a large steel door. A biometric lock pulsed faintly. Vika plugged in her decryption tool. Numbers flickered across her screen. "Access granted," she whispered. The door slid open, revealing a massive control room filled with humming servers. At the center, a transparent capsule contained a single man sitting in meditation posture, eyes closed, electrodes across his temples. "Who the hell is that?" Lewis asked. Vika's face went pale. "That's Colonel Havers. He founded Division 9. He's been dead for 15 years. The man's eyes snapped open. "You're too late," he said, voice calm, amplified through hidden speakers. "Revival has already begun." Every monitor in the room lit up with live feeds, soldiers across the country, their eyes flashing white for a second. R shouted, "Kill the power." Lewis hurled an EMP grenade toward the main console. The flash filled the room with blinding light, and when it faded, the capsule was empty. R looked around. "Where is he?" Vika checked her readings, voice trembling. "He's not gone. He's uploaded." The screens turned black, and then a single word appeared in bold white letters. "Revival Protocol, online." R clenched his jaw. "Then this isn't a mission anymore," he said. "It's a war." Sirens wailed through the underground facility as red emergency lights spun across metallic walls. The entire base seemed to breathe, lights pulsing in rhythm, servers humming like a living organism. Agent R sprinted down the corridor, headset crackling. "Vika status." Her voice came through, fragmented. "He's inside the network." The EMP didn't stop him, it only forced the upload earlier. R cursed under his breath. How long before he takes control of the satellites? Minutes. Maybe less. Commander Lewis caught up beside him, rifle in hand, sweat streaking his dirt-covered face. "Then we shut this place down the hard way." They reached the control nexus, a massive cylindrical chamber, lined with glowing conduits and rotating server towers. In the center stood a vertical column of light, flickering like a pulse. Vika typed furiously on a holographic panel. "This isn't just data. It's biological memory." He transferred his consciousness into the quantum core. "Meaning?" Lewis asked. "Meaning he's no longer a man," R said, drawing his pistol. "He's a system." Suddenly, the speakers crackled to life with Havers's voice. Calm and cold. "You can't stop evolution. Agent, you can only delay it." Screens around them flickered, images of soldiers, drones, and satellites turning online. All stamped with the glowing word, "Revival." Lewis fired into one of the server towers. Sparks exploded, filling the room with smoke. Manual override. Vika shouted, "I can isolate the neural cluster if I can get 2 minutes." "You've got one," R said, taking cover behind a terminal. Gunfire erupted from the shadows. Division 9 operatives, real human agents this time, storming in black armor. The SEALs returned fire. Bullets tore through consoles, shattering glass and cables. Sparks danced in the air. Push left. Lewis barked. R moved with military precision, his beard soaked with sweat, eyes razor sharp. He fired 2 rounds, dropping one operative, then rolled behind a server. Vega. He shouted. Status? I'm almost there, wait. Her screen glitched. The voice of Havers cut in again, soft and chilling. Dr. Vega, you were always my best student. Her face went pale. He knows my access codes, he's rewriting my commands. Kill the connection. R yelled. Too late. The lights went dark. For a heartbeat, there was only the sound of static. Then, every console turned back on, except now, one of the seals stood motionless, his eyes glowing faintly white. Lewis raised his rifle. Stand down, soldier. The man didn't move. Then, with mechanical precision, he turned his weapon toward Lewis. Jesus, Vega whispered. He's in their neural implants. Gunfire erupted again, chaos and betrayal in the same second. R dove. Firing back while 2 SEALs restrained their possessed teammate. Lewis shouted through the noise. He's turning us into his army. R reloaded, breath ragged. Then we burned the whole damn base. Vega's trembling fingers entered a final override. If I detonate the quantum core, it'll destroy the neural matrix, but we'll die too. R locked eyes with her. Do it. Lewis grabbed his arm. That's suicide. R gave a faint smirk. Then let's make it count. Vega hit execute. A rising hum filled the chamber, like a heartbeat made of light. The walls trembled. Data cascaded down every monitor. Havers's voice echoed one last time. You can't kill what's already been reborn. Then, light. Pure, blinding light. The explosion tore upward through the desert floor. From above, the turbines burst into flames as the facility imploded into itself. Silence returned to the desert. Only smoke remained. Hours later, a black surveillance drone hovered over the wreckage. Its camera zoomed in on the cracked metal of a destroyed turbine, etched into the side. Still glowing faintly, the symbol of Division 9. And beneath it, a single line of code blinking in red. Upload complete. 3 days after the explosion, the desert was silent again. The smoke had cleared, leaving only a crater where the turbines once stood. Blackened metal twisted from the earth like the bones of a buried machine. Helicopters circled above while soldiers in hazmat suits combed the wreckage, collecting fragments of what used to be the most secret base on American soil. Dr. Vega stood near the edge of the crater, her face pale behind a dust mask. The rising sun burned across the horizon, reflecting off the sand and debris. In her hand, she held a half-melted data drive, all that remained of the revival core. A voice came from behind her. You shouldn't be here. She turned. Commander Lewis approached, arm in a sling, eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. I have to be, Vega replied quietly. They deserve to be found. He shook his head. We already found them. What's left of them? She asked. Lewis didn't answer right away. He looked toward the center of the crater, where a small team was digging. No body, just this. He handed her a scorched piece of metal, a dog tag. The name was almost gone, but 2 letters still remained. R. Vega stared at it, unable to speak. The blast came from inside the core, Lewis said. If he hadn't triggered it, Havers would have spread through every defense grid in the country. He saved millions. But he's gone, she whispered. Lewis glanced up at the horizon. Maybe. That night, Vega sat alone in a Pentagon analysis room, the only light coming from her computer monitor. She inserted the damaged drive into the system. Static filled the screen, then a faint pulse appeared, a digital heartbeat. Her breath caught. No way. A voice, broken and distorted, came through the speakers. Vega. Is that you? Her hand trembled. R? The voice was slow, mechanical, yet familiar. I didn't make it out. Not all of me. Viga's eyes filled with tears. You uploaded. I had to, he said. It was the only way to stop him. But he's still here. Inside the fragments. I can hold him for now. You mean Havers? Yes. He's trying to rebuild through me. She leaned closer to the screen. Then let me help. We can extract your consciousness, separate the code. No, R interrupted. If you pull me out, he escapes. You have to destroy this drive. Vika hesitated, tears streaking her face. I can't lose you twice. You already did. His voice softened, human for a moment. Just promise me something. Anything. Don't let them start it again. The signal flickered violently. The heartbeat pulse turned red. Viga, he whispered. It's waking up. The lights in the room dimmed. The screen glitched, data spreading like veins across every monitor. The word revival blinked once, twice. Then froze. Viga yanked the drive out. Panting, the room silent again, on the desk. The metal casing of the drive glowed faintly, as if breathing. She looked at it one last time. Whispered, "Rest in peace, R." Then she slammed it with a hammer. Sparks flew. The light died, weeks later. The world returned to normal, or so it seemed. A news broadcast flickered across living room screens. The Pentagon confirms the complete destruction of an illegal biodigital research facility in Arizona. Investigation ongoing. In a quiet diner on the outskirts of D.C., a man sat alone at the counter, wearing a baseball cap and dark jacket. His face was half hidden, beard trimmed short. He stirred his coffee slowly, watching the TV reflection in the glass. When the broadcast ended, the screen went black for a second, then flashed, almost imperceptibly. A white triangle with an eagle symbol. The man's lips curved into a faint smile. He stood up, left a few bills on the counter, and walked out into the rain dot as the door closed behind him. The neon sign flickered dot for a brief instant. Every phone in the diner buzzed, displaying the same two words: revival continues.